Hey, everybody. Good morning from California, and good afternoon to the rest of the states. Appreciate you being here. I love this. I love this class. I say that every week, but it's really true. I think about it all week. And those of you who are familiar with my radio program, I should mention that this Tuesday, July 5th of 2022, I'll be preempted for fundraising as the station concludes this particular fund drive. And then the following Tuesday will be my last show. That'll be July 12th. And I mention it for a couple of reasons. One, because it's the last show after 54 years of being in radio. Sort of a big deal, but I have no regrets. I was very clear when it occurred to me a month ago that I should wrap this up, hang up my headphones, focus on this class, and I'm excited to say write another book. And I've already begun that and spend more time with my lovely wife. Um, so I also want to mention that my guest will be Robert Thurman. Robert Robert Thurman, strangely, is best known as the father of Uma Thurman, the actress, from Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill. But to Buddhists, he is much better known as the author of more than a dozen books, including his own translation of the Tibetan Book of the Dead. He's a recently retired from Columbia University as a professor of, I forget the exact title, but it's basically Eastern philosophy and religion and cultural studies. He does read Sanskrit, and he's a charming man. He was a contemporary at Harvard of Timothy Leary and Richard Alpert. And like Richard, went to India when they decided that LSD was uh, not the doorway that it seemed to be. It introduced us to higher consciousness, but we always crashed, and there were bad trips, and uh, you just couldn't stay there. They wanted to stay there as in that expanded state of enhanced awareness. And so both Alpert and Robert Thurman went to India. Uh, Richard, who became Ramdas, Baba Ramdas, and wrote Be Here Now, was very eclectic, but went more into the Hinduism field, whereas Robert went more toward the Buddhist field. But they remained, of course, dear friends. And I've already done the interview. It's in the can, as they say, and a great interview. It was just a perfect way to end a career, at least a radio career. So if you want to make note of that, that'll be Tuesday, July 12th, 1 o'clock California time. All right, let's begin with our opening focus, our opening meditation. So if you get comfortable in your chair, sit up, close your eyes. That's the first indication to your brain that you're safe. Simply closing your eyes. And then feel a sense of relaxation. Again, because you're safe. Safe and relaxed. And take 2 or 3 nice, slow, deep breaths, inhaling through your nose, pulling in strength and power, and after just a brief pause, exhaling just as slowly through the nose or the mouth, and go beyond where you'd normally stop. Allow for just a brief pause and repeat. Pulling in strength and power, and on the exhalation side, a sigh of relief is a sigh of release. Feel the letting go. Maybe one more. Big letting go. Ah. And then turn your breathing over to autopilot, so-called involuntary breathing. Put your awareness in the bottom of your nose somewhere. Let it settle in and find its spot. And simply spend a few moments watching your body breathe itself. As if nothing were as interesting, nothing more fascinating than the fact that you breathe, you are alive without any effort whatsoever. That contrary to our beliefs on many days and at many times, life is really not a struggle. Prove it with non-attachment. Identify as the watcher rather than the breather. As if there's nothing else you'd rather be doing, nothing else you need to be doing. Except simply watching yourself breathe. Life is not nearly as complex or complicated as it often appears to be. We feel as if we're in a struggle to solve problems and heal our hurtful feelings, that it's always something. And like a salmon swimming upstream, everything is a struggle. It's not true. Meditation proves it. Open all of your meditations by welcoming in all of your feelings, physical feelings and sensations, emotional feelings, moods, and attitudes. Resist nothing. And notice that you remain. When you find your thoughts distracting you from your attention, your awareness of your breathing, simply say to yourself, of course, for this is what the mind does. This is the job of the mind when it is not purposefully engaged in some task. But by closing your eyes, taking a few slow, deep breaths, and creating and sensing a letting go feeling, you're sending 3 distinct messages to the brain that you're safe. But instead of going to sleep, we float right here in the middle. Right in the middle between deep sleep and wide awake. Because we're not asleep, we're conscious and aware. And because we're not wide awake, our attention is less likely to be scattered. We're less likely to be distracted. We're less likely to be confused. And so the greatest awareness comes from finding this wonderful, relaxed place in between. It's an actual brainwave level. It's called alpha. And you know you're there. We know we are here. When the mind begins to slow down. We still may be distracted from time to time, but the frenzy is missing. Because we've persuaded the brain to understand that, in fact, we're safe and we can relax and reflect on our mental nature, on our emotional feelings, on our physical senses and sensations. We could even review the past and plan the future in this level of mind. But doing it mindfully allows us to sit in the present moment. Easily able to distinguish between the mental thoughts of the past and the feelings that go with it, the mental thoughts of the future, the feelings that go with them. And the awareness of sitting in the present moment. Consider each instant as eternity unfolding. Consider the freshness of every moment being new again. And how much of reality we miss when we dwell on the past or the future. And simply sit. Perhaps you've heard the phrase, sit with it, or simply sitting. Taken literally, it's just doing what we're doing, sitting quietly as if there's nothing more important for us to be doing. To allow ourselves to be human beings rather than human doings. To just be. But simply sitting means more than that. It's allowing the present moment to have its way with you. It's giving up the struggle and the self-imposed limitations of our high stress, high anxiety thinking. Dropping that struggle, not even struggling to stop struggling, but just to let it go. Put it down. Anytime you hear someone talk about overcoming anxiety or stress or conquering our fears, remind yourself that that's really a contradiction in terms. There is no struggle against struggle. There's no effort in stopping the efforting. You just let it go. Just for 10 minutes, my goodness. Put down your noble struggle and see that you remain. In fact, more aware, more peaceful, more loving. And if something has upset you recently, some problem, a condition, mental, emotional, physical, whatever it may be, remind yourself, first of all, that it will pass, for nothing is impermanent besides awareness itself. And so good times fade, bad times must pass. Above every storm, every hurricane, every tornado, above the thunder and lightning, it's a sunny day always. Allow for that ebb and flow, that yin and yang, that coming and going of all things, rising and fading. And sit with it, determined to do nothing other than be aware of it. Let it come to you. Hold gently your problems and your hurtful feelings, as if they represent parts of us that are frightened, unsure what to do, feeling as if there may be some danger enfolded in this confusion. But in fact, it's not likely. Allow the insight to occur to you without effort, without logic, without analysis, without labeling, without judging, without deciding. Effortlessly. Allow insight and understanding to dawn upon you. Be patient. Let it come to you. Let it come to you. Let it dawn upon you like the sunrise slowly. And as you understand, the problems dissolve simply because you understand. And the heartache vaporizes simply because it's realized. Intuition is an illumination, a realization. And awareness. Be that awareness. Give up the struggle. Seek to understand, to know thyself. To discover what's lovable about you. Why your friends want to be with you. Why they like the way they feel when they're with you. That's why they're your friends. They like the way they feel when you're around. Life is a gift that we've been given. Not to hold on to. And not to struggle through. But to pass on and give to others. It's the only thing that makes sense. The only thing that gives meaning to our lives is to put down your personal struggle and help others to do the same. And it's so simple. Just a few kind words like, it'll be okay. Wow. Is it really that easy? I'm sure it'll work out. You're a smart person, you'll figure it out. You're a loving person, and so, by its very nature, life conspires to support you. Affirm the positive in your own self-talk and share it with others. Give it away. Give away what you have freely been given, life itself. With that in mind, and in your heart, prepare to return to the wide-awake state. And I'm going to facilitate that simply by counting in a moment, slowly to 3. It's not necessary, but I think it helps the transition. When you meditate on your own, You can do this for yourself. Simply, one is just forming the intention to return. Summarizing, perhaps reflecting on my narrative, and more importantly, on what it brought up for you today. 2, feel a gentle floating up feeling, not unlike awakening in the morning, moving toward a wide awake state. And 3, eyes open, wide awake, back in the room. Come on back. Welcome back. Feeling fine, rested, refreshed, feeling better than before. Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. When we go to the Q&A part, I know that, I remember being in school and not wanting to raise my hand and concerned about what other people think and all of that. Maybe one way to encourage you to participate in that part of the presentation today is simply to talk about your meditation experience and ask about it. There are, to my way of thinking, I've mentioned this before, but it's important. 3 aspects to personal and spiritual development. Meditation is certainly a huge one. Meditation is real important. Or simply sitting in the moment, relaxed, safe, and refusing to judge anything, just watching it as it is, without saying this is good or this is bad, much less this is right and this is wrong. You don't have to do that. It just is what it is, you know. Simply watching. Meditation. There's many, many forms of meditation. We'll explore them here in time. Study. Number 2, study. You have to read. You have to read good books. Read great books. If you found a great book, you can share that with us when we go to the Q&A. Go online and read. Fill your Kindle. Buy books. They're cheap. I have a friend who says, books are the best way to learn from people who are dead or far away. Study. Review. Reread that book that you loved 10 years ago and read it again. Skim through it at least. And then live mindfully. That's the 3rd aspect. Meditation, study, and mindful living in your daily life and affairs. That means it's sort of like a waking meditation in everything that you do. It's like simply sitting when you walk, simply sitting when you prepare a meal, simply sitting, being with yourself. A religious person would say in the presence of the Lord. Its reality is all that it is, the moment, not these nightmares from your past and these phantasms from the future, but what's going on right now? Well, I'm chopping a carrot. I'm I'm dicing an onion. I'm washing the dishes. In the present moment. To the best of your ability. Will the brain drag you off in one direction or another? Well, of course it will. But the practice in these 3 areas, meditation, study, and mindfulness, will help you in all 3. You see, nothing's really separate. One of the great fundamental wisdoms is separation is an illusion. So anytime I make a list, each item in the list touches on all the other items in the list. So these are not 3 separate, distinct efforts or things to do. They're really part of one thing with three faces, and probably more. Try to live mindfully to the best of your ability. And maybe it's mid-afternoon before you realize, oh my God, I've been out of my mind all day with worry and doubt and confusion and running around doing this and that. And I'm totally overbooked myself. And I even skipped my meditation this morning. Well, no wonder my life is crazy. You're not taking care of yourself. You put all these other things ahead of it. And who encouraged you to do that? The ego, the false self, the part of us that identifies as separate, the meat body, because its job is to help us survive in a jungle. Well, we're not in a jungle anymore. We need to reprogram. We're mostly safe. Sometimes you're in a jungle. We were talking before class today about driving on the freeway. It's very similar to being in the jungle with vipers and vicious animals that want to eat you. But, you know, fear is so irrational. I shared something I put in my book, Fearless Intelligence, with a friend the other day. We were talking about the danger posed by sharks and shark attacks, and sharks are becoming more prevalent here in Southern California. Not here in the desert, of course, but but you know, along the shore, they're coming closer. The water's getting warmer, and they're closer to shore as well. But still, in the world, you know, in the entire world, there's only 5 to 7 people every year that are killed by sharks. If it's you or someone you know, doesn't much matter what the number is, but for the purposes of my illustration here, that's a relatively small number. We're terrified of sharks, right? Some people a lot more than others, others less concerned. If the sharks don't get you, the jellyfish will. And yet, who's afraid of a mosquito? Nobody's afraid of mosquitoes. But mosquitoes kill 300,000 people a year in the world. Mosquitoes kill 300,000 people, and you're not afraid of a little mosquito. Sharks kill 5 people, but they're terrifying. It's just one example of how irrational, mind-numbing fear, stress, and anxiety can be. Whether you call it panic or paranoia or phobias or horror or terror on the high end, or just simple worry, doubt, nervousness, mild apprehension, or I'm somewhat concerned. It's all the same thing. It's not about danger, it's about confusion and the way stress and anxiety and fear shatters awareness. So how do you be more aware? You become fearless. Give it up. Stop the struggle. Prove it with 10 minutes of meditation every day. 15 would be better. You can always do more. Some people meditate for an hour or two. Some people twice a day. The research shows that 12 to 15 minutes 4 times a week is sufficient to create significant changes in your awareness. Not to mention the shrinking of the amygdala, the brain's fight or flight center, and the literal expansion and growth of the gray and white matter in your brain. Meditation grows your brain, the higher brain functions in particular, and allows the fear center to atrophy. Isn't that amazing? Wouldn't you want to do that? Right? All right, so that's my pitch for meditation, study, and mindful living. Let's pick up where we left off last week, talking about fear. And the understanding that I want to emphasize to you is that when we divide feelings, emotional feelings, into positive and negative, that there's more value, arguably, in the negative feeling than in the positive feeling. Because our positive feelings, our joy and our happiness and our peace of mind, which lead to expanded awareness, insight, and understanding, are basically signals that you're on course and you should keep doing what you're doing. You're happy. So keep being happy. Whatever you did, my doctor said that to me the other day. Whatever you're doing, Mr. Benner, keep doing it because you look good on paper. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. That's what joy is. It's a default state. It's not a place that you attain or achieve. It's just simple, effervescent happiness for no reason. Joy. What are you so happy about? I don't need a reason to be happy. I'm alive. Isn't that enough? Should be. Should be enough. I can see. Well, my vision isn't as good as it used to be, but I can see. I can hear. I can smell, taste. I can touch. I can immerse myself in this experience. So our positive feelings that we aspire to and try to work to create, we'd be much better off if we just let go of everything that is not love. And there it is, waiting for you. Let go of everything that is not peace, peace of mind, and the expanded awareness that comes from that. And there it is, waiting for you all the time. It's your nature. You don't have to get there. You prove that every time you meditate. First thing that occurs to me when I meditate is, what was I so worried about? Why have I been so stressed? Why do I make my life so complicated? Again and again and again. Why do I work so hard? What are you doing with this life? Who has persuaded you? Who's trained you to be fearful and anxious and work so damn hard? Sort of feeling like one of Pavlov's dogs here. It's been conditioned and trained to be a worker bee. So-called negative feelings, and I say so-called because obviously they have enormous value. These are the signals that say you're off course. A course correction is needed. You're straying out of bounds. You're doing something wrong. Even if that feeling is just simple anxiety and stress. That's the signal of confusion, not danger. Fear is not about danger. It's about unawareness, not understanding, being confused, facing uncertainty, whether dangerous or not. And it almost never is. And even if there is a clear and present danger, your fear and anxiety is what you don't know about that particular danger. We talked about this last week or the week before, fire drills and shooter drills in school to prepare so that there's less fear. The danger remains constant. It doesn't mitigate the danger, but it helps us to be more aware. That's what stress reduction is about, expanding awareness. So here's my point. Everything that hurts, so-called negative feelings, everything that frustrates or irritates or humiliates, that you find painful, that frightens you, Well, there it is. Every negative feeling, your anger, your hatred, your animosity, even your apathy, is rooted in and born of and nourished by fear. And so to become more enlightened, to become more aware, to make progress in our personal and transpersonal or spiritual development, we must move in the direction of fearlessness. We must sit with our fear. And that means sit with everything that hurts. Stop pushing it away. It's got a message, don't you see? It's trying to tell you something. It's your brain seeking to get your attention, like a warning light or a gauge on the dashboard of your car. And the red light is not the problem. You don't go to the mechanic and say, fix this red light. The gauge is pinned. Fix these gauges. They're driving me crazy. Instead, the mechanic looks under the hood. Our fear and our anger and our heartache and our sadness, these are not the problem. These are symptoms of the problem, don't you see? As fear itself is a symptom of the problem. And what is the problem? Capital T, capital P, the problem? We're confused. We're unaware. We're anxious, which is a result of the fear. So it's a vicious cycle, don't you see? When you're confused, you get frightened. Well, that shatters awareness and your ability to understand. So now you're even more uncertain and more confused, and that means you're even more frightened and more confused and more frightened and more confused and more frightened, and it's a toilet flush. It's a tornado. It's a downward vicious cycle. And I've talked in past classes about the upward spiral, the antithesis, which is the way peace of mind promotes understanding, which leads to, big relief. Now I can relax. Even more peace of mind, even more insight and understanding, even more peace of mind. Now we have this beautiful non-vicious cycle, this upward spiral of love and understanding, don't you see? And the track, again, I mentioned this, but not everybody comes to every class, so some of this has to be repeated. The track from the downward spiral of fear and ignorance to the beautiful upward spiral of love and understanding. In other words, the way we transform, transmute, and resolve our heartache into joy, our natural state, are these two tracks: relaxation, meditation, and responsibility. Own it. It's yours. It's not done to you. Stop obsessing. I sound like Dr. Phil. Stop doing that then. Better said, replace your obsession on the stimulus, who or what caused you to feel this way. That's the lizard brain. Know the enemy. Replace that with know thyself. And then you will know the outer world. Get the pony in front of the cart here. Know thyself. Understand these are your feelings. Focus on your emotional feelings as a response to what seems to be happening to you. It's not what's done to you. It's how you look at it and what you do with it. That's reality. That's what needs change. You don't reach into the mirror and you don't run up to the TV screen to try to change the movie. You change the way you look at it. What can I learn from this? Where is the opportunity for me to know myself better? to realize what my life is really for and who I am, why I'm here. Those kinds of really profound existential questions come from responsibility, the ability to choose a response, the ownership of the feeling. Be about the response, not about the stimulus. And there's a point of perception between stimulus and response, between cause and effect, really. There's a middle element. We started this class 4.5 months ago by talking about the Trinity. This is another Trinity. Between stimulus and response is perspective or perception or awareness. Also love, wisdom, truth, has many names. Where the Christos or the Buddha nature, awareness and love, stands between spirit and matter, between energy and mass, is awareness. Between what's done to you and what you do with it is you standing there looking at it, turning it into your particular reality. How you look at it, there's a space. Open that space. Instead of being reflexive and then thinking about it afterward, acting out of a feeling and then defending it, rationalizing it, or even if you feel some regret, asking yourself, well, why didn't I think it through carefully, and then feel it out again, and then think a little more, and then flesh that out with my emotional nature, see how it sits, and then take another look before you run out into traffic. Often we just act reflexively and then either regret it, or even if we regret it, we often defend it or rationalize it in our own minds. And all you have to do is learn to look before you leap. Like you take your kids to the curb and teach them there's traffic here. You have to look both ways. Do it a couple of times. Make sure you're safe before you cross that street. You're teaching your children to be consciously aware. So what I'm focusing on is the awareness of awareness being offered to you, insight and understanding being offered to you by the very feelings you wish to avoid, that you resist, that you gird your loins against, that you struggle to make go away, or you just deny and look the other way, when they're full of juicy insights and wonderful, liberating realizations. Yes, your anger and your hatred. It's all fear. It's all confusion. That's all it is. You just don't get it. And when you understand it, does that mean you have to agree with it? No, agreeing with it has nothing to do with understanding. Whether you agree with something or not, that's way down the road. First, you got to be aware of it. Okay, you got to recognize, why am I so upset? Why am I angry? Why would I like to wish this person away? They're so irritating in my life. They're so the bane of my existence, this person, or people like this person. Well, what could you learn about yourself from that? Like how not to be, why you acted like that once or twice or three times, what was going on for you that you might be able to empathize. And our goal is compassion, the highest form of love, is compassion for their suffering. That's the exit. That's what you do with, ultimately, as you understand what your hurtful, so-called negative feelings are telling you about you. You resolve it with compassion because you recognize their suffering. Someone who frightens you, upsets you, makes you angry, is frightened, upset, and angry. Notice how contagious emotions are. An angry person will make you angry. Uh, Even if you're watching two angry people argue and you're not angry and you're not part of the argument, you will find your body gathering tension. Um, that's why people watch sports on TV. Is the brain thinks you're part of the game and you get excited. Some people jump up, if somebody scores the touchdown or hits a home run, they physically are involved. And so if you see how many murders a week, how many people are killed in front of you on TV, whether it's cowboy movies or future fiction, science fiction movies, or, you know, Law and Order, past, present, future. TV is full of, they call it action. What it is murder and mayhem. And your brain believes it's part of that. I mean, part of you knows you're not, but often you have to bring that awareness forward and remember, wait a minute, breathe, relax. I'm just the watcher. Notice how in meditation, I say, be the watcher, not the breather. This is non attachment. Step back. Or just watch less of that. You can avoid a lot of that. A lot of it's unnecessary. The news. We talked about this, I think, the
Michael,
last
that's
week or
our
the week before. Yeah,
just a 5-minute warning. It's 11:55.
thank you. We talked about the news, full of violence. If it bleeds, it leads. Your brain thinks you're in the midst of that reality. I mean, it's news, so to some extent you are, but it's not immediately here. It should concern you, but it doesn't need to terrify you and shatter your awareness and your insight and your understanding. So the lesson today is really recognize that everything that hurts us emotionally or simply frustrates us, maybe you don't think of that as hurt, or irritates you or humiliates you, um, is rooted in fear, which is about confusion, unawareness, and uncertainty. Not not necessarily danger. What are you worried about, Michael? I really don't know. I'm just sort of stressed out. Well, not knowing is the point. That's what fear, stress, and anxiety by any name. That's what it is. Not knowing. So, what's the antidote? To know, to understand your emotions, to become emotionally intelligent. It's an essential step on the path to spirituality. Now, there's great value in yoga, but they don't do emotional intelligence in yoga. So you think you can just sidestep that and doing your postures and doing your meditation is going to free you from all of that. And no, the only way out is through. You must go through it. You must look at what frightens you most and move into it and not really do anything about it other than sit there and let it come upon you. Let it have its way with you, even if it feels like it's going to devour you or crush you or suffocate you. In fact, that's how you know you're doing it right. And dare it to do that. It won't. In fact, it'll break on the shore like a wave, and you get this realization, this insight. I'll give you a great example, and then we'll go to the Q&A. Again, maybe you just want to talk about your meditation. That's fine. Um, There was a time in my youth, more than one, but I'm thinking of one in particular, when I was really freaking out. And I think it may have been partly financial, but I think it was complicated by relationship issues. It was one of those periods, and I know you're familiar, where everything just seems to come apart at the same time. And I felt like I was floundering. And I was at first sitting on the floor in front of my fireplace, and I had a fire going in there, a wood fire, old school wood fire. And then I laid down on my side, sort of fetal, and just reflected on this fear, not with any expanded awareness or insight or understanding or certainly no wisdom. I was just terrified, and I didn't know exactly what it was or why I was so frightened. And then I rolled over on my back, and the fear took the form in my imagination of an elephant sitting on me. And I felt that the feelings that I was feeling, all this stress and anxiety, manifested as an image of me in my own mind pushing against this elephant so that it wouldn't crush me. Understandably, right? If the weight of my problems and my circumstances, the conditions in my life that had arisen, was going to crush me if I didn't push against it. And I couldn't push the elephant off me. All I could do was, with every effort, every bit of strength that I had, keep the elephant from completely crushing me. And I cried out, I called out, as if to God or Jesus or Buddha or my guardian angels or my oversoul or anybody. It didn't matter to me. Anybody, anybody who was willing to answer, right? What do I do? And I heard this voice in my head say, almost like a whisper, it said, let go. And, well, I thought that was the craziest thing I'd ever heard, you know, in my time of real need. If ever I prayed, this was a prayer. And I get let go, right? That was outrageous. Oh, no, I can't let go. That's the very point. If I let go, surely I'll be crushed, suffocated by this elephant. And I heard it a second time. Just let go. Actually, I think the voice used my name the second time. Michael, just let go. So I knew I couldn't keep this up for very long, so I sort of gave up. And I let go. And the elephant disappeared. And the voice in my head said simply, it was your elephant. And I realized that I wasn't pushing the elephant away, I was holding it. I was holding on to the elephant. And when we try to avoid our heartache and our hurt and our sadness and our anger, and we try to push it away, we're really holding on. Because isn't that what we do in response to anything unknown? Isn't the fear response to tighten your muscles, to hold on for dear life? You don't need to defeat anything in life. Just let go of what doesn't serve you. But look carefully, because the things you often wish to avoid have beautiful lessons to offer you. Don't be too quick to let them go. And sooner or later, you realize you'll never do an end run around it. You've got to go right down the middle. The only way out is through. You got to feel it to heal it. Love is at the other end of a very dark tunnel. You've got to go through the darkness. Now, the game is rigged. You do this enough times, you realize it's just a little spiritual, cosmic game that's being played here to help you develop fearlessness, to help you become self actualized, self realized, and then self actualized, and get it turned around. I'm not a human with a spiritual nature. I don't have a soul. I am a soul. That's the wisdom of the soul. I am a spiritual being in a meat body banging around in a world of separated form. I had I'll go to the questions, but I had a phone call this week from a friend who believes he's an atheist. And I've never argued with him about it because I know what he means. He's just rejected religion for his own reasons, as many people do as they mature. But he didn't know that there was anything spiritual that was available to him. And yet this man is completely dedicated to peace, anti-war, anti-nuke. His whole life's been devoted to the peace movement. In my eyes, he's heroic. In his eyes, he's just one little person doing the best he can to raise awareness and consciousness. And he would resist the idea that he's a spiritual person. And in fact, he called me because he was in crisis this week. Serious illness has occurred in his family. And he was in a real crisis. He's terrified. And he kept saying, I wish I had some tools. I'm not a spiritual person. I'm an atheist, and I don't have the tools. And I said to him, there are a few people that I know who are more spiritual than you. I get that you're not into religion. It's got nothing to do with it. Organized religion, institutions of men, got nothing to do with it. Christ was not a Christian. Buddha was not a Buddhist. Muhammad was not a Muslim. Religion is what human beings do if they think they can get a leg up or get some power or maybe even build a government based on belief systems and dogma and tenets. I said, where do you think this drive, this passion that you have for world peace comes from if that's not spiritually driven? You see. So the enemy is fear in a sense, and yet our best ally is fear. It's not the hate and the anger or the jealousy or the envy or enmity or hostility or belligerence. These are all symptoms of confusion. And yet, if we die to it, if we sit with it, there's that phrase again, if we simply sit with it, let it have its way with us, the enemy reveals itself as an ally, a friend, replete with insight and understanding. And as you harvest that, as you reap it, it falls away. All of the hurt, all of the anxiety falls away. Okay, Hannah, have we got some comments or questions?
No questions. Pamela wanted us to note she's changing her cell phone. She's having trouble with her internet. Just letting us know. And then Jean said, not a question, but hearing Michael use the elephant metaphor reminds me of something one of my mentors used to say to me whenever I felt overwhelmed, which is that you have to eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Yep. That's Bite-sized pieces is a very wise approach to dealing with anything that feels big and overwhelming, is just to break it down into little pieces. And that's what most thinking really is. Let me take another sip here. What we call thinking is, for the most part, deductive. And to deduce, if you remember arithmetic class in grade school, to deduce, to deduct, is to subtract. It's the dictionary definition of deductive thinking is general to specific. Inductive would be specific to general. Much more difficult. Deductive is easy. If you want to write a check, first you need to decide, well, I need to not decide, what's the word I'm looking for? You need to discover how much money you have in that checking account. And then you subtract, to draw a balance, you subtract the amount of money that you expect to spend to arrive at a new balance. When you go to a restaurant, consider this. I think this is a great example. How do you order from a menu? You think you're ordering what you want to eat. Some of these menus are daunting. Last time I was at the, what's it called, the Cheesecake Factory. My God, they have, page after page after page. And it's quite an effort to wade through the menu at the Cheesecake Factory. But what's the process? It's deductive. You are arriving at what you wish to eat on this day by eliminating what you do not want. That's called thinking, right? It's deductive. It's reductionist is another way people refer to it. You're saying, well, no, I don't want that. That doesn't sound good. Oh, I had that last time I was here. It was okay, but I want something different this time. And no, this, not that, not breakfast, not dinner, maybe a small lunch. Maybe, do I want a salad? Maybe a side. You're eliminating what you don't want, and then you narrow it down to 2 or 3 things, and then you trust your intuition. Then you go with, well, I'll choose this from among this greatly reduced set of possibilities. That's logic. That's all we've got for the most part. That's all most people have. And even that takes some effort to become really good at. But what if we have an observed set of details or specifics, and we want to generalize? We want to find the common thread that runs through all of these particular details. Like all the parts seem to go together, but what do they form? Like a puzzle. What's the cover of the jigsaw puzzle box? Show me the cover. I can't put this jigsaw puzzle together if you don't show me the cover. This is inductive logic. It could be thought of as creativity or using your imagination. It is to conceptualize an overarching, all-encompassing, big picture, a whole enchilada, from the little bits and pieces. And that's largely intuitive. You have to sort of stand open to the occurrence of some insight that says, or if you get enough pieces put together in the jigsaw puzzle, you go, oh, I know what this is. This is the old mill stream, or whatever. This is Van Gogh's Starry Night. I've seen jigsaw puzzles that are all white. There's a challenge for you. Put together a jigsaw puzzle that is all white. Fewer clues. So these are the two ways we can think. Logically, analytically, rational reasoning is limited to subtracting, to take apart. Oh, the watch doesn't work. I'll have to take it apart. The lawnmower is not working. Well, where's the screwdriver and the wrench? And I'll have to take it apart and see what's going on. The car is not working. Well, let's look under the hood. That's pretty much all we've got. So what happens when we want to put it all together? I see this and this and this and this, and they seem vaguely connected. What's the big picture here? This is what we ache for. This is what we long for. What's this all about, Alfie? That's where intuition comes in. And it requires a peaceful state of expanded awareness. And then you let it dawn upon you. Oh, wait a minute. And maybe more than one possibility will occur to you. But this is a creative process. How do you write a song? This is how you write a song. This is how you write a story. This is how you write nonfiction, as far as that goes. If we were more conscious, or as we become more conscious of the way we speak, it's less repeating belief systems and statements that you got down pat because you've said them so many times. Well, I believe, well, I think, well, and allowing spirit to move. That's why I'm so slow in these classes. I know I'm slow. That's why I'm not a tape recorder. I could do that. You know, I've done radio like that, where it's a patter, we called it. You just rap, you just go with it. You're pre-rehearsed. How much conversation, how much of what passes for conversation is just playing back sentences and paragraphs, and you rap stuff that you've rehearsed. That you believe, and you decided that this is your belief and it works for you and it fits, and I'm not going to think about it any further because I've got this brick in the wall now. Oh, and here's another brick. This is something I believe. And we build a wall out of this. Well, that wall may protect you, but it also imprisons you. These inflexible belief systems. And it helps us, it benefits us and the world to be more open and more spontaneous and more authentic about allowing the intuition to speak and trusting that. A lot of radio people have said to me, I don't know how you do a talk show, man. You get out there with hours in front of you. Or a class like this. I don't have notes. I don't even have bullet points. I've just got this overarching linear. This is the hard part of teaching a class like this, is to put it in some sort of order, to make it linear. That which is not linear, I have to put in some sort of order. That's the challenge. But each particular class, I have a sense of where I want to go with the class. But the particular words that I speak are I hate to say channeled. You know, that's not quite it. There's too much baggage that goes with, oh, I'm a channel, I'm a medium. No, man, it's just listening to your intuition, allowing it to speak. So anyway, that's my riff after, who was it, Gene, that talked about eating an elephant one bit at a time. Bite-sized pieces. We're real good at the deductive, the general to specific, take-apart thinking. We need to develop the complementary, specific to general, and that's intuition. That's much more creative. So thanks for that comment. Anything else? Hannah?
I'm double checking, but I don't think there's been anything added in the chat box.
I did submit a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, now I am seeing things. Okay. So just FYI, Patrick is inviting people each week and looking forward to being part of our growth. Another just statement that I'll say before Melinda's question is from Hanif, which is not necessarily a question, more a comment. Can being fearless be confused with being reckless? And I'm just going to say Melinda's at the same time, which
Well,
is
Let me comment on what Hanif said.
okay.
Fearlessness is not recklessness. Um, Recklessness, maybe better said, recklessness is not an evidence that you're fearless. Recklessness often comes with being very frightened. Uh, but I can see how this merits some reflection. Uh, I would simply argue, and if you want to come on at some point, we'll talk about this more. That if you were truly fearless, you would be so aware that you would not be reckless. You would choose very consciously and very carefully your behavior. That's real fearlessness. Um, I think if your behavior is reckless, what an excellent point. Thank you so much, Annie, for bringing this up. If your behavior truly is reckless, then you're not fearless. You're still suffering from fear and reflexive reactions to that fear. So, just a quick comment on that.
Thanks, Michael. Okay, then Melinda's question. If we talk about your friend's fear of illness, where might he go with tools instead of being locked in fear?
Well, I mean, the short answer, the quick answer, the obvious answer is love. But what is love? It's the peace that promotes expanded awareness, insight, and understanding. It's acceptance. It's accepting the law of impermanence, that sickness is one of the prime sufferings. It's what motivated Buddha to leave his cushy job as a prince of a whole kingdom, was his encounter with sickness, aging, and death. And it freaked him out because his, not to dwell too long on this, but when Siddhartha was born, Gautama Siddhartha was born, a prophet told his parents, who were the king and queen, that he was either going to be a spiritual prophet, a great master, or a king and a warrior like his father. Well, his father wanted him to be a warrior king, not some monk or religious prophet. So he sheltered the boy, and he never got off the plantation. And one day, uh, he goes to town with the stable boy, who was sort of his buddy, and he encounters sickness, aging, and death in order. And what is this? The stable boy says, "Well, sir, this is sickness." What is sickness? I've never seen it. Oh, well, this happens. And then aging, and then he finally sees a corpse in the street. What, my God, what is this? And these old, bent over people walking with canes, and my God, what is all of this? And then he became fascinated with the nature of suffering, the first noble truth: you shall know suffering. So to know that we age and that we get sick and that we die is a reality that most of us do not want to face, and therefore we're not very prepared for it. I think as we get older, we're prepared somehow. I haven't ever really talked about this, but I think there's a change that happens in many people, probably not everyone. Um, that makes it easier to accept aging and death as you get older and approach having to face your mortality. But for the most realized people, it's a frightening and perhaps even terrifying experience to be told that you have stage 4 cancer and it's inoperable and we can do chemo, but it's not going to help. And in the case of my friend, it's his wife of 40 years, and she's in denial. And again, I can share some of this because you have no idea who I'm talking about, so I'm not breaking any confidence. But it looks like maybe the cancer is in the brain, and she's getting very confused at times. And he does not have the tools. Again, like I mentioned before, he thinks he's an atheist. He doesn't know what to do. And I think one tool is what Gene just said about bite-sized pieces and taking it one day at a time. And if that's too much, living your life, setting your goal to get through the next hour. And if that seems overwhelming, then one breath at a time. And it's like, how do you climb a mountain? I've climbed a few in my younger days. It's exhausting. And just about the time you think you're at the top, you realize, oh no, I've got another 2,000 feet to go. It's just one step at a time. That's all you can do. So take it as it comes. Take it easy. Bite-sized pieces, that whole thing. Relax. Trust life. Trust the universe. That's difficult for a lot of people. I don't see any reason why I should trust anyone or anything, would be the response of many people. Well, again, if just a few months of meditation should begin to reveal how trustworthy life is. My God, it conspires to support you. And when your body gets tired and used up, it gives you a new one. Now you say, well, that's just a belief because I can't really know. Okay, well, where did the idea of you only get one shot come from? And then there's heaven and hell, and if you go to heaven because you were a good little boy or a good little girl, what are you going to do there? Nobody ever talks about that. You going to travel? You going to see the sights? Or you going to sit on the front porch in heaven in your rocking chair and pet the dog forevermore? What are you going to do? And that begs all these big, huge existential questions of, well, what's the purpose of all of this and the meaning of all of this? And dealing with terminal illness and the end of life forces us to face these questions. What if you just trusted? Right? I mean, that's what the animals do. They don't ponder this stuff. They don't worry about it. The apple tree doesn't wonder in the winter whether it's going to flourish and bud out and bear apples again, containing the seeds to scatter and create more apple trees. It's just not concerned about that. It's ongoing existence. Maybe we could learn from the trees and the flowers and the animals just not to worry so damn much. Maybe that's the problem, is our fears, which are always about things unknown, and instead try to know them. What better way to find the answers to these questions, but then through meditation, to sit with it. So there's for now anyway my best answer to that question. What are the tools of dealing with such overwhelming, horrifying circumstances? Take it easy, slowly, a bit at a time. Trust life. It's conspiring to support you. It is you. You don't have the love, the peace. You don't have to find outside of yourself the love and the peace and the understanding that you're looking for. You already have it. In fact, you are that. You don't have a life, you are a life. You don't have to worry about it. Again, you don't have to breathe. You can watch yourself breathe. You don't have to be the thinker, always figuring this stuff out. You can learn to watch your thoughts and say, I don't agree with this random thought that's passing through my brain. It's just a stranger. It's not mine. Any thought that is not deliberate and purposeful is not my thought. Just because I thought it, just because it passed through my brain, doesn't mean I need to agree or believe it. It's nonsense.
Michael.
Yeah.
Because you started that little segment with the word again, I'm going to interrupt and say there's 1 minute left. Bob put in the chat box that he has a comment on something from last week if there's time. And I'm also noticing that Pamela has her hand raised.
And do you have to go, Hannah?
I do have to go. Yes.
Okay, sweetie, I'll let you go. And
Okay.
Bob, we have Bob and then Pamela.
Yes. Well, Bob wants to make a comment from last week, but Pamela's got her hand raised now. So it's up to you what order you want to go in
I'll
those.
I'll I'll take them both quickly. And Hannah, thank you again for being here today.
Okay. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
Um, Bob, you want to unmute and
I did. She can go first, and I can save mine for next week. It'll wait.
all right, Pamela.
I just was going to just add a comment with your friend asking for the tools. And I think he has the tool, but maybe he is not using it. And it is meditation and visualization would have helped him.
Oh, for
What
sure.
you think?
Yeah, acceptance of the Serenity Prayer. This is a real good place to conclude this class. The Serenity Prayer is so chock full of wisdom. The serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to acknowledge the limits of our power as mortal beings, the part of us that is mortal, that I call Michael Benner and you call Pamela. That aspect, we are limited in what we can do. We're not gods. We are emanations. We are aspects of of whatever divinity means or represents as a creative force. Love, insight, understanding, peace of mind. But we are limited in what we can do. And then the courage to change what we can and the wisdom to know the difference. That's a tough one. To accept the limits of our power is humbling, and it should be. We're better off when we balance our dreams and goals and aspirations with the limits of what we're actually able to accomplish, and to reorient from what we want for ourselves to what we want for other people. I said to him this week, I bet you'd, given the chance, trade places with her. And he said, oh, unquestionably. The problem with that is that the person who suffers is not the one who dies, but the one who's left behind. So there's no good way out. We've just got to face it and embrace it and understand it, and go to nature if you want an understanding of infinity and immortality and eternity. It just goes on and on and on. Floods, droughts, fires, locusts. Just goes on and on and on and on. Such a beautiful thing. Thank you, Pamela.
Okay.
And Bob, we'll pick up with your comment next week. And to everyone else, thank you very much for being here. Again, we're posted to YouTube if you want to review, watch again, send your friends. Simply go to YouTube and search for the Ageless Wisdom Mystery School. That's the channel. I'm not sure Wisdom of the Soul will bring it up, but that's all my radio programs and these classes as well. Again, radio goes away after July 12th, but we'll continue to be here. And I really appreciate you joining us whenever you can. Thanks again. Be gentle, love life, take care of each other. Happy 4th of July holiday weekend. Be thankful for what independence you still have in this in this political landscape. And we'll see you next week. Namaste, aloha, salam.
Namaste, Michael. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. We appreciate your wisdom.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So long.